Here's Matt.
All right. Uh, I was thinking about what I wanted to go over today, and although this is an old topic that gets discussed probably ad nauseum, I hope that I we can have some discussion that maybe feels a little bit different. And I'm not a huge fan of the word safety in recovery. The reason I'm trying to get this set up on my screen a little bit different. The reason I'm not a huge fan of the word is it's a really vague word. So if somebody says, I don't feel safe, that could mean so many different things. So when I say that I'm not a big fan of the word, it's not that I disagree that somebody does or doesn't feel safe. It's that it's like a starter word. If somebody says I don't feel safe, it causes me to pause and I'm like, "Oh, well, let's explore that." Because if all you do is tell me you don't feel safe, I know I know that you feel unsafe, and if I'm a healthy individual, I want to help create safety for you. And I also want to explore, what does that mean? Do you feel emotionally unsafe? Do you feel physically unsafe? Do you feel um emotionally and physically unsafe? Like, what exactly is happening and what is it? Like, do you feel like I'm lying to you? Do you feel like I'm trying to take advantage of you? Do you feel like I'm gonna hurt you? Do you feel like what? Like, there's so many possibilities of what that means. And a lot of times the person saying it really isn't even aware of what that means for themselves, right? All they know is they're having this feeling, and I know from, as somebody who has experienced PTSD throughout my life for various reasons, there's moments where I just stop breathing, and I'll hold my breath and I'm like, oh, I feel unsafe, right? And then I have to dive down deep and slowly start to pull that apart if in this moment I even have the ability to do that, right? Sometimes I feel unsafe and it's like I need to remove myself from this environment because the environment could escalate and it could become unhealthy, or I could be taken advantage of, whatever it might be. And so it's a weird thing when I tell people I don't love the word, and because it does a really good job of describing an entry level issue that is very important, and then we have to take time to pull it apart. Sometimes it will take me days, weeks, I would say months, maybe even years to understand what about that felt unsafe and what's all of my history that contributes to the lack of safety. So I'll talk as I talk about that just more briefly. Let's talk about it on a relational level. Um, I'll kind of try and walk through the different layers of creating safety. And I believe creating safety is it. I hope this resonates with you guys. It's just as important to create safety for a betrayed partner as it is for the betrayal partner, right? Creating safety in a relationship is about both of us figuring out how to resonate with each other so that we can have a more deep and impactful relationship. And if that sounds unfair, let's explore that a little bit. But we often talk about creating safety as if it's the requirement of the partner who did the betraying. And I would argue it is a requirement, but it's just as much a requirement for the individual experiencing betrayal for the other. And the reason is that relationships can't deepen. They can't get vulnerable, more connected. We can't comfort each other unless we both figure out what creating safety looks like. Somebody who's experienced, and this is not giving them an excuse, it's not giving them an out, but somebody who's experienced addiction as a coping mechanism their entire life, uh, potentially their entire life, probably hasn't had a lot of someone creating safety for them. In fact, they might even believe that safety doesn't exist for them, that they don't deserve it, especially if they've done all of these betraying activities. The idea that they deserve safety might feel ridiculous. And it's just not true. You as a partnership will never achieve the closeness and togetherness that you desire unless you figure out how to create safety for both of you. And it just takes a lot of time. But if we talk about it at first, safety is often a like a complicit behavior. And I don't even know if I'm saying that word right, but it's like that where the behavior is me, I'm doing it just to appease you. Because I've been found out, because I've been exposed. At first, creating safety is all right, well, let me figure out what rules I need to abide by so that you feel safe. And that's not even a bad thing. It's just often the rudimentary first steps. But greater safety is gained um, like if a partner chooses to disclose, like, hey, I realize I've been struggling with some things, I haven't let you in before you find out some other way, or I don't want you to find out some other way, I'm going to tell you and I'm going to disclose to you what's going on rather than being compelled. Now oftentimes in the recovery circles, you don't see that, right? Like somebody has to be found out. I do see it, and it really does create a lot of safety. Like I wasn't caught. I chose to disclose to my wife, or my partner, I just don't want to live this way anymore. Um, Safety then can increase where the intention changes, where I'm no longer just trying to be a good boy or a good girl. I can feel something inside of me wanting to be different. And so as I'm changing, I'm creating greater safety just because I'm becoming a different person. I'm becoming a more safe person. And that's just, I'm now learning better relational habits. I'm learning better life skills. I'm just finding the healing within myself to become the person I want to become. Um, and that is like a whole nother step. Like a lot of times people in recovery will maybe like it's like, okay, well, I'm sober. I don't see what the problem is. I'm sober. I don't see why you're not okay. I'm sober. And it's like, yeah, but you're not figuring out how to go beyond sobriety. And so the things, the elements that I desire, that we desire, that I've always imagined in my mind that we would have in a relationship, you're not exploring those. And so if it's just about sobriety, your level of safety is more limited. Um, and so each person has to figure out who their authentic self is. Now, one of the things about like as I heal and do my healing work, as I figure out who my authentic self is, that can actually be really scary for a spouse. Because if let's say you and we got together as a couple and we were in the same faith, and as we grow and as we change, as many people do, I get to a point where I'm like, hey, I don't know that authentically I can be within our faith and stay the person or become the person I want to be. Maybe I don't believe it anymore. Maybe my thoughts and opinions have changed. Maybe I see things differently. But if I don't tell you, and that's something that's if I don't tell you authentically that I'm making changes, um, I'm not creating safety. Now, as a partner, I might be like, well, that doesn't feel safe. You're changing the relational agreement. We got into this relationship to be a part of this faith or religion or whatever it is together, and you're changing the agreement. Well, yeah, anytime that changes, that's going to feel scary. It's going to feel potentially unsafe. But if I don't tell you, right, now I'm being inauthentic and I'm not creating safety in the relationship. And so there are times where when I'm working with couples, say, you might need to sacrifice a present feeling of safety and comfort, right? Because comfort or this belief that we commonly share, you might have to sacrifice that and face the discomfort that I'm currently in a different space than I was religiously. And so I have to bring that forward. But by being authentic, I'm trying to have long-term safety and security in the relationship. And we're going to have to work through the pain and difficulty of that. Um, so I try and teach people lying will never create safety. It might move like this immediate sense of scariness and discomfort. It might push it down the road. And I've had a lot of people that I'll ask them, like, how come you never disclose this? And it's like, well, I never wanted to hurt them. And it's like, yeah, I get that. Like, that's a beautiful desire to never want to hurt your spouse. But if you push down the road like that need to confront this issue, you create greater lack of safety. As much as I say I don't love the word, I'm using it over and over and over. Just by pushing that down the road, by lying, you create greater. I want the security to know that when we have a conversation, I can believe you. And that is such an important principle in a healthy relationship. And so lying will never create safety. It does just the opposite. It's the worst thing I can do in a relationship. And so real quick, creating safety is not resentfully following the wishes of your partner. It's not lying about sobriety. It's not being sober while white knuckling. Creating safety is not controlling our partner so that we feel better. Creating safety is not feeling like a child in the relationship. Creating safety is not feeling like a parent in the relationship. And so just a few things as to go off of that. Safety is about resonance with our partner. It's about learning how to show up for them because they matter to me, even if I don't agree with them. Creating safety is about learning more about myself and sharing it with my partner as I change, as I learn, and as I grow, even if it upsets my partner to hear it. Creating safety is about vulnerability, and it's about vulnerability to being hurt. I've seen a lot of partners who have been betrayed who will limit their ability to be hurt. Almost like, I'm going to keep my walls up as long as I can because I don't want to be hurt again. And although that makes sense, it's not creating a deeper relationship. Um, but I understand why they do that. Um, Creating safety is about being vulnerable and working to find healing with each other as a part of becoming together as a couple. So we risk vulnerability and hurt, but we also then risk, it sounds funny for me to say it that way, we risk healing, right? Like we put out there, like, if I'm gonna put my risk out there, then I'm gonna create an opportunity for healing to occur as well. So I love the concept of safety. It's just such a big, often I think misunderstood term that when somebody says to me, "Hey, I felt really safe," my immediate response is, tell me why. Like, I'm glad you feel safe, but teach me what happened. Because if you don't teach me, I won't be able to recreate it. Just if you tell me you feel unsafe, well, you got to teach me why, because I might not know why you feel unsafe. So both directions, it's just a very vague word, very important. So, Scott, what are your thoughts as I share all of that?
Well, good stuff. If you have questions, please type them into the Q&A feature. Matt and I will answer them to the best of our ability. Um, I never really thought about the concept of safety being a vague word. I hear it all the time. I hear it from partners. I hear it from betrayers. And I've never really thought, okay, what is safety? What is not safety? Um, you
I'm
know,
up for you challenging me.
no, I'm not. Not at all. I'm actually 100% in agreement with you. I mean, uh, as an addict, as somebody who had childhood trauma and PTSD issues, much the same as you, um, safety was putting up walls, um, big, high, tall walls, topping them with razor wire, painting smiley face in the front so you think that I'm okay,
Yep.
and hoping that you will not come any closer. Because if you get too close, you can hurt me. That was safety for me, and that's not safety. That's living in fear. That's cowering in a corner. It's isolating. It's not connecting. It's the opposite of safety. Safety, as I'm thinking about this, for me, involves other people. I mean, I mean, I can lock myself in a room by myself, but I mean,
There is no safety in that.
there's no safety, there's no not safety, it's just nothingness almost. Safety is, earned security almost for people like us. It's earned security. It's, I can feel comfortable being vulnerable with you. I can tell you the truth. And even though you might get mad, you're probably not going to run away and leave me forever. And, maybe you'll actually listen to why I think or feel the way I think and feel. Um, Hold my hand while I do it, even if you disagree with me. There's a level of comfort. I talk to guys sometimes. Are you chasing intensity? I mean, I work pretty much with sex addicts straight up. Are you chasing intensity or are you chasing connection? And they're like, well, really, I'm chasing connection, but I'm not getting it. Of course, you're not. It's the sex addiction behaviors are the least intimate thing we can do.
It's like searching for hydration by drinking alcohol. You just aren't gonna get it. That's
Right.
that's not its purpose.
Right. Yeah. And um, I mean, what I truly want from life is to be seen, like truly seen and known, truly known and loved anyway. And to me, that's safety. Like you see me, you know me, you love me anyway, even if we're fighting. I don't know. That's where my thoughts went, and I'm interested to hear. I mean, maybe what is safety like for you in your life? What feels safe to you?
Yeah. You're asking me?
I'm asking you. Yeah.
Um, it's interesting because for the longest time, I probably could have only defined safety by the lack of it, right? Like I know what it's not, for the longest time for me, it's not men. Like men aren't safe. Like it's a fascinating, like, and there's so many things we could talk about with that. And even that for the longest time was like, well, what's it like to be a man and not believe that and to not believe that men are safe, right? Which has everything to do with all of my wounding.
Yeah.
And then so for the longest time it was, and then there was like this space where, well, the only way I can feel safe is if I have uh, a woman in my life who loves me and thinks that I'm valuable and important. And at the moment I don't have that, then I feel like I'm a mess. And it's like, well, let me go find the next one. And so for a lot of years, it was figuring out like, well, again, that's not safety. That's just me running away from the discomfort.
It's
Um,
it's finding this stopgap that will distract you from your unmet need.
yeah, yeah, and so I mean, to really answer that, it's such a funny, like as I like kind of go through the various recesses of my mind, like when I really look at it and go, when did I even first recognize that my partner was safe, and what did that even mean? Like for the longest time, I don't know, you know, even in my relationship that I understood safety. But over time, I started to feel the fear decrease. And then
Yeah.
one of the biggest epiphanies for me, and it had to sound really strange for my wife, was when I said to her one day, I said, I realize I don't need you. And I said, I want you, I choose you, but I'd be fine without you. And to me, that was like one of the most incredible feelings because it was that realization of, whoa, I think I might have moved out of being an anxious, attached person where I can't survive without you. And I need you to affirm me and I need you to build me up and make me feel good about myself. And I need you to do all of these things that are just thoroughly exhausting for a partner to have to try and do, to where I went, I enjoy you. I want you. I choose you. But if I didn't have you, I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
And like, so there was a lot of internal safety, like a lot of attachment work I had to do
Yeah.
to feel safe being by myself.
To feel, I always describe it for me as feeling comfortable in my own skin,
Yeah.
which until I started doing the work of recovery and lots of work of recovery, I was always the alien in the room. Um, you know, I never felt more alone than at a party full of friends and family. you know, um, and I don't. I still wake up feeling that way once in a while, but it's 9 days out of 10. I feel pretty comfortable with who I am. It's only one day out of 10, whereas it was 9 days out of 10 the opposite before. Um, so, um, type your questions into the Q&A. We've got one there, and I'm going to ask one more question to Matt, and then we'll jump
I was,
into.
I was like, dude, I'm gonna lay down and tell you about my mother because like you just took me deep, Scott. I'm like,
You took me. I was doing the same thing. I was like, oh, when did I stop feeling safe? Number one,
yeah.
and and,
Well,
and why?
as much as like it's a funny thing, like as much as I had just a really good mother who I knew always loved me, like as funny as it sounds, I really was like, I don't know that I ever felt safe. Like there was way too much abuse at home, there was way too much violence, there was way too much everything.
Yeah,
And like, and even though she was somebody in a way that I could be secure and like attached to, there was not enough space to just actually be okay with that.
right.
And so it's funny because I look back and I'm like, yeah, she was solid, but there wasn't enough room for me to ever feel. I mean, it was living in fear and anxiety was actually what felt normal.
Yeah. As you started to talk, I thought, yeah, I was always on edge, and you just said living in fear and anxiety, always on edge. There's no safety in that. So the question I want to ask you, and I think this is a Stan Tatkin quote, but I might be wrong, and you may know better than me. But I think it was Stan who wrote somewhere, relational injury requires relational healing. Can you put that into context with what we're talking about here?
So this is like, I mean, so this is it's actually really vulnerable for me to share what I'm about to share because from a peer standpoint, like from other professionals in the CSAT realm, for instance, there's so much focus on like people doing their individual work, which I think is very important. But I'm over all the years that I've been doing this, one of the reasons I gravitated so strongly towards couples work is though I believe it's very important to do our individual work, if we don't do couples work soon enough, I don't know that I see the healing happen. But doing couples work early is ugly. Like it can be so hard. And so it's even though I feel so strongly about the importance of couples work early in the recovery process, I have plenty of clinicians that are just like, no, nope, it's not good. And I'm like, it's uncomfortable, it's painful, it's scary. Yeah, for sure. Can it be ugly? Absolutely. But if our healing has occurred in relationships, or if our wounding has occurred in relationships, our healing must occur in relationships. So doing individual work is often a very slow process to get to the healing for the individual. Now, in some sense, none of us are ever individually healing. Even if I go see my therapist, right? Like I'm in a relationship of healing, right? They're in a position of authority, which is where they're supposed to be. Very important position, but I'm still doing relational work, but it's a mentor-mentee relationship instead of a peer-to-peer relationship. And then sometimes that's the issue. If our wounding is with our parents, for instance, and I'm trying to get my partner to help me heal from parental wounds, well, then that's messy because that it's not supposed to be that way. My partner doesn't want to be my mother or my father, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so absolutely, like, it's it's one reason why 12 step can be so powerful, because I can go with another group of people who are struggling, and then a healthy sponsor can be in more of a mentor parental role if that sponsor knows how to keep it that way. Because as a sponsee, I'm often wanting to pull them into a peer-to-peer role, and as a
Yeah.
sponsor I have to, nope, I got to keep this as a very strong boundary, which is confusing. People do it with therapists all the time. Oh, I want to know more about you. I want,
Right.
teach me about you and let's be friends. And it's like, no, you need me to stay in the
Yeah.
authority role, in part to help you heal in your authority wounds.
Yeah.
Um,
And they want to pull you into peer because they're uncomfortable with the authority role.
it could be, right? They're
I mean,
uncomfortable with
if
the
I'm
authority.
uncomfortable with the peer role, I want you to stay authority.
Oh, for sure. There's and the truth is, I can be uncomfortable in authority, try to pull you into peer, be uncomfortable in peer and push you back into authority and then pull you back and forth because I'm
Yeah.
uncomfortable with relationships,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's what's it's when you ask about that question, I'm like, "Oh gosh, can of
Yeah.
worms opened. We could talk for
Yeah.
days."
I
Um
mean, I think about attachment styles, like you mentioned, you're anxious attached, which, I always think plumbing, come closer, come close. Whereas I'm avoidant, which means not too close, not too close. And both of us have had to do the same kind of work, though. We've had to learn slowly over time that other people can be safe, you know. And for me, it started with a therapist. My therapist, I could tell my therapist the truth and he didn't judge me. He didn't throw it back in my face. He didn't hurt me with it. I learned that I could trust someone. And then it was peers in recovery. And then um, and now I'm much less avoidant than I used to be. You're much less anxious than you used to be. It's like, oh, I'm okay on my own. For me, it's like, oh, I'm okay with someone else. I had to learn the opposite, but I had to learn it the same way.
Right. So avoidant people are often uncomfortable and don't feel safe in relationships. Anxious people are uncomfortable often with themselves and need to be in a relationship, right? And so what we're trying to learn to do is to come to a secure place where we're okay being alone and we're okay being in a relationship. Both are fine.
Yeah, which is cool. I mean, it's a great goal. Okay, let's go to the Q&A. Type your questions in here. We got a couple. We'll take what we've got. How do I create safety for my acting out partner when his shame makes it difficult? I find often when I show up for him by providing him space to learn and grow, he sees me as a mirror of all the things he's done to me. And I'm assuming goes into a shame spiral.
Yeah. Love the question. How do
Mhm.
you create safety? Well, creating safety for anyone is typically about finding a better understanding of what their needs actually are and then learning to be in that space. And sometimes it's learning to be in an uncomfortable place and being okay with it. And so the first thing that popped out in my mind, so I'm just going to answer it this way and hope that it will help, is that when you said when his shame makes it difficult, well, what I'm going to do with somebody who maybe I keep bringing up their shame, or just vulnerability brings up their shame, or their shame just exists because they exist, if that makes sense. What I'm going to do is probably just start to get comfortable, to do my best to be comfortable in their shame. Oh, I think it feels like your shame's coming up. Am I getting that right? Well, that's okay. Like, I can be present while you're in your shame. We can just start to get comfortable, and it's okay. I don't need to hurry and get you out of your shame. You don't need to hurry and get yourself out of your shame. Sometimes if let's say your acting out partner was using acting out because of the shame, learning to be more comfortable in the shame and not having to do something to make it go away can actually create a lot of safety. Now, it's a miserable feeling. Nobody enjoys shame. I don't think we should say, hey, let's all learn to live in shame, but we can build a certain tolerance while we learn like shame resiliency, and we learn tools for working through our shame. Like, one of the most important things for reducing shame is to call it out, to just identify, oh, I'm feeling shame. And so I might ask my partner, hey, if I notice that you're feeling shame, can I ask you about it? That in and of itself is creating safety. So if I notice you're having shame and I say to you, hey, it sounds like you feel like you're feeling a little bit worthless right now. Am I getting that right? Right now, I'm just going to speak that it's in the room. I'm not going to try and make it go away. I'm not going to try and make you feel better. And he might want that. He might be like, hey, if I'm feeling ashamed, you need to tell me I'm lovable. Now, I don't know about everybody, but I know for me, when my shame came up, I wanted reassurance. Like, hey, tell me I'm lovable. Tell me I'm good enough. And I remember the day I went to my wife and I said, I don't remember the exact day, but I remember there was a day where I went to my wife and I said, hey, I need you to stop reassuring me. And she was like, well, what do you mean? And I said, if I'm feeling like I'm not good enough, please don't tell me I'm good enough, which might have sound counterintuitive, but I realized that if I can't sit in that discomfort and share with you my discomfort, I'm never going to heal from this. And so she specifically stopped, because I requested it, stopped reassuring me. But because for an anxious attached person, that reassurance often makes it worse. Now, somebody who's avoidant might get the reassurance and it's actually helpful because they might be learning, hey, I can actually reach to somebody for comfort instead of I can only find comfort by reaching to somebody.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, go ahead.
so I hope this helps a little bit. It's going to take you guys time to figure out, what does safety even look like? What does he need in this case? And here's the hard part. Sometimes what he tells you he needs isn't what he needs because he doesn't know what he needs and he's just trying to figure it out. And it may take a lot of time for you guys to explore that. The one piece I'm not sure I totally understand is, you said, I find often when I show up for him by providing him space to learn and grow, he sees me as a mirror to all the things he's done to me. And I think what you're saying is, when I show up and give him like a healthy space that he can grow, he starts to feel ashamed for all the things he did to me. And I don't know if that's what you're saying, but right now that's the only way I can. And so he's now ashamed, like, hey, how can you be so nice to me for all the bad things I've done to you? And I might, if that's the case, I might say, oh, are you feeling bad? Well, okay, cool. You just said yes with an exclamation point. Honestly, that took me all the time talking about the other stuff to realize what you meant. So I'm so glad I got it. I might say, okay, well, I don't want you to feel guilt. It's not like I don't want you to feel shame. And the truth is, I don't want you to dwell in guilt either, right? Guilt can be healthy because we're like, oh, I don't ever want to do that again. And I'm like, cool, I don't want you to ever do that either, right? I don't want you to ever do it again either. However, this isn't about what you've done to me. This is about who we are trying to be now. So you need to feel bad about it, go ahead, but I like where we're going together. And if you keep going back and beating yourself up for the past, we're not going to continue to grow together. But, at the same time, that's okay. If you're going to beat yourself up for what you've done, I can sit in that even if I don't want that. Same thing on the first part of the question. I can sit in your shame even if I don't want you to feel shame because I know as your partner, it's not my job to make your shame go away. It's my job to learn to be present with you, even
And
if you're in shame.
I'm a quote machine today. I'm gonna quote Brene Brown. Um, Shame thrives in darkness, it withers in sunlight. If you can sit there and hold my hand while I talk about my feelings of shame and why I have them and what I feel shame about right now, it takes a lot of the power of the shame away. If you can just sit there with me, I don't need a lot of feedback. I don't, I'm like Matt, I don't really need the reassurance. I just need you not to run away. My love language is you don't run away. you know,
Yeah.
eh,
Just be present. And it's funny how many of us, and I for so many years felt this way. Thankfully, part of becoming a therapist was being able just to sit with somebody in their pain and not make it better. Like, I don't mind exploring with somebody how they can try and make it better. But like early on, I remember a brand new therapist, and we're talking like 13 years ago or more, where I was sitting there like, oh my gosh, what do I need to do? What do I need to say? And like learning very quickly, there's nothing I can do and say. I mean, sure, there's some things I can do and say that might help a little here and there, but so much of it is just letting them experience that hurt and pain. Now, if you think about it, to the person who wrote this question, that same thing holds true for the partner who's been hurt.
right.
Like too many times the partner who did the betraying is like, how do I make it better? And it's like, stop trying, just sit with them in their pain. And that's like unfathomable to them. Like, what do you mean sit with them in their pain? I feel miserable or whatever it is they're feeling. And it's like, yeah, but you can't fix it. You can be present with them and you can learn more about yourself and you can learn to make changes and they can learn to make changes and us together can become stronger. But being present is what changes it.
Yeah. And maybe be curious sometimes. Can you
Oh,
tell me more? You know, what's that like? You know, just let somebody feel what they need to feel and be there with them. That's an act of love. And it's a hard one for me because I don't like to feel uncomfortable. That's why I'm an addict. I want to feel uncomfortable. I think I'll suck down a gallon of vodka. you know.
well, right. It makes shame go away along
Yeah,
with every other emotion.
yeah, temporarily on all of them, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the next one. My husband is in recovery and doing remarkably well. Yay. It occurs to me while listening to you that my husband felt more safety during those times in his life when he was not in a relationship. He wasn't comfortable with vulnerability, I suppose. What are your thoughts about this?
That is really normal. Um, yeah, I think that's really normal. It's interesting because like I'm gonna go off on a little bit of a tangent here, and it's not going to apply in every case, but for instance, like if I look at somebody who got into addiction who's not comfortable in relationships, then they're using their addiction to try and satiate maybe feelings of loneliness, but you'll often see their behavior it's a very detached behavior. So, and I'm going to generalize this, but like let's say for instance somebody who doesn't want to do relationships, they might hire a sex worker because it's like, cool, I can get sex and that'll be enjoyable, but yet there's like the relationship agreement is just like it's an exchange, right? And but then rarely will they ever go back to the same one. I mean, it's just about like I just want to feel better and have a certain sense of closeness without ever having a risk of a relationship. And then like contrast that with somebody who maybe has a long-standing um uh you know affair partner or something like that, because in that case for them it's like, hey, I want to feel like I'm in a relationship, but maybe I want the distance of the vulnerability of it, right? Like, so I can have this feeling that I'm in a relationship and somebody cares about me, but I don't have the real accountability that's involved in that relationship, right? Like when somebody tells me, for instance, and I this isn't uncommon, where they'll say, oh yeah, I would seek out relationships with women who were married, and that was my specific template, for instance, right? In situations like that, it's like, well, let's look at your past, and a lot of times it's like, yeah, relationships are uncomfortable, and so I can avoid risk for that reason, right? So without getting um like, I don't honestly know obviously anything about your husband in this case, but the idea is that we often will choose the types of behaviors we do because it touches on the need that we actually want without getting vulnerable enough to actually get it, right? And that's what makes it enjoyable, is like I can keep it at the distance that works for me, um
Yeah.
without
This
having to
kind of goes
risk as
back
much.
to what I was talking about myself earlier is I can lock myself in a room and be alone, and I do not feel unsafe. Nobody in there is going to hurt me but me, and I have control over me. But I don't feel safe either. So I don't know that he necessarily felt more safety when he was single, but he probably felt
Ah.
less unsafety. That's
Yeah.
terrible grammar, but,
Well,
but,
I actually I love it, because you're not wrong. Like, it's really hard. Like, we can say, when I was in a relationship, I felt less, or when I was not in a relationship, I think I'm saying that right. I felt less vulnerable,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
Like,
because you weren't taking as many risks.
right. And but at the same time, if my need for connection or the need to feel lovable is higher, right, then I'm gonna get into risky relationships just to feel lovable. And so yeah, it's I do like that you point out he probably didn't feel more safe, because safety, when we really look at what safety means, like
Yeah.
from an attachment perspective, it's security within relationships and without relationships, but it's there's a certain type of relational security there typically for someone to feel safe. And so not being in a relationship probably wasn't more safety. It was less risk, less vulnerability. And there's a certain amount of that that's just it's enjoyable.
Yeah. Um, Dr. Rob calls sex addiction controllable intimacy. I call it faux intimacy because either way, it's not intimacy. It's not intimacy to me is close, open, and vulnerable and feeling relatively safe doing it.
Right.
Sex addiction behaviors, they're not close, they're not open, they're not vulnerable. We don't feel unsafe. And we'll chase this facsimile of connection, whether it's through, if I'm looking at porn, I fantasize that I'm having a relationship with that person, or that I'm in the scene with, or if, and even as Matt's example, if I'm having a long-term affair, as Matt rightly points out, that's not really a relationship. It's dinner out and hotel sex. Relationships involve who's doing the dishes, whose turn is it to pay the bills? How are we splitting this task up? It's holding their hands when they're thrown up in the toilet because they had one too many. It's all of that. Relationships are hard.
Yeah.
Affairs are kind of easy. Um, and
Well,
most times affair partners, there's research. If they divorce their spouse and get married to each other, they're divorced again within 3 years. It's like
yeah,
90% of the time.
yeah, it's a really high. I don't remember the statistic, but it's super high.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because as I've been learning about and becoming more educated on sexual health, like if you take a couple who, let's say they decide within their relational agreements to have an open relationship, right? It's about honesty, vulnerability. It's about openness, right? And so even if they go and engage sexually with somebody else, even in that, it's, hey, I'm in a relationship with my partner. It's
Right.
open, it's known. Here's the relational agreement, right? Like here, and then we have a relational agreement. Well, so much of betrayal is a broken relational agreement that was either assumed or might have even been very explicit. And so I'll often tell people it's not even about having sex with multiple people, right? It's about the broken relational agreements. It's about the secrecy. It's about the isolation. It's about the hiding and the lying, right? And so we have to figure out as individuals, what kind of lives do we want to live, right? If am I going to be open? And so, like, let's say going back to what I was talking about at the very beginning, it would be that same concept. If I tell my spouse, like, hey, our faith isn't working for me anymore, right? It's not, well, our relational agreement was we're always going to stay in the same faith, because that may have been the relational agreement. But it's now me telling you that I don't know that I can uphold that agreement anymore. Can we talk about it? Like, and you might be terribly disappointed. Well, if you think about that in a healthy relationship, if I come to my partner and say, hey, I'm interested in having sex outside of our relationship, can we talk about that? As painful as that might be, that is the safe thing to do, if that makes any sense. Now, I, as a partner, might say, I'm not okay with that. Like, that doesn't work for me. We need to terminate the relationship if that's what you're going to go do. Okay, let's have that conversation. So this is that weird space of like, it isn't even about the behavior so much as it is the conversations and the agreements around that behavior.
Yeah. And, I mean, Dr. Rob a long time ago, when the internet was becoming really a thing and sex addiction was transferring from, street prostitutes and phone sex into, a more digital universe, he
Meeting
wanted
at
to
the
find out
parks.
if acting out online was as hurtful as acting out in person. Um, and it is. And one of the side findings of that was it's not so much what the addict does, it's the lies and secrets used to cover it up. It's the
Yeah.
lack of honesty. It's the loss of relationship trust, which creates a lack of safety. I mean, how can
Yeah.
you feel safe on any level in a relationship
Oh
with
yeah.
someone you don't trust?
Yeah. I just had somebody uh ask me about, hey, have you seen these like AI companions? And like you can pay for this AI companion who, and they advertise like, oh, 99 or 90% lifelike or whatever. And it's like and I sat there and I thought about that, and I'm like, oh, I wonder when the day is gonna happen when a couple comes in and he's like, hey, it's a computer, it's AI. Like, I don't, he or she, right? I don't understand why you're upset. I was lonely and it wasn't a real person, and I don't understand why you're upset. And it's like, because it's not about the behavior, it's
Yeah.
about the agreement we have, and we believe that we have as a couple. That's where the betrayal comes in.
Yeah, and whether it's an explicit agreement or implicit,
Right.
when you get married, most people, the vast majority of people, assume we are going to be monogamous. And but even that, the assumptions can be all over the place. Well, the guy might think, I'm looking at porn, I'm not cheating. And the wife might be like, yeah, you are. I mean,
Right. And unless we have a conversation about that, he might go ahead and go on and do that and think nothing's wrong.
right.
Right. And so anyway, that's what I find so interesting.
Yeah.
One book that I've often recommend that's really can be pretty triggering if you don't read it right. Tammy Nelson has a book called The New Monogamy. And what I love about how she breaks down that book is she's like, everything needs to be talked about.
Mhm.
The relational agreements all need to be discussed. We cannot have covert relational agreements. Otherwise, we're going to create more pain when we break them.
And by the way, if there are any betrayers out there, if you're wondering if certain behaviors are okay or not, I will simply say, are you keeping it secret? If so, why? If you're keeping it secret, you know it's not okay. Otherwise, you go home and say, "Hey, I looked at porn today," and your wife would be like, "Fine." You know,
Right. Right. You will not create safety by keeping it secret.
yeah. So um, we're out of questions here. Matt, is there anything you want to add or?
I don't know that I have a whole lot more hitting me.
Okay. It was a cool topic today, so thank you. Nice to see you, Matt. Thank you,
Good to see
everyone,
you
for
too.
being here for the great questions. I will get this posted as soon as I can, and Tammy will be back with Matt in a couple of weeks, most likely. So
All right.
um, have a good day. Have a great weekend, everybody.
See you, Scott.
See you.